jack it up.
Hurts keeps, Hurts cuts, Hurts has the first down, and Jalen Hurts might have just put it away for the Eagles. Touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey and the Sixers are going to win this game. Joel, tough turnaround in the lane. Another 30-10 performance for Joel Embiid.
Hurts connects with Devontae Smith.
Hello and welcome back to 215 Scoop here on YouTube. How you doing, Asher?
I'm good. I'm back home right now. My class on Friday, I have one class on Friday and it got canceled. So I came home, started watching March Madness at home with my family, or my dad mostly. But
yeah, how's your bracket doing?
Terrible. I had Purdue winning.
I got Houston winning right now, but I had Purdue in my Final Four, so
it's rough. Yeah, anytime you lose,
rough. And then Houston almost lost last night for a period. I was watching the game; it was tight for a while. I also had Kansas in my Final Four, and they're gone.
That's rough. I had your Penn State Nittany Lions in the Final Four.
No way, really?
I was a little crazy with it.
Yeah. I had them in the Sweet 16.
Okay. But yeah, they definitely look like a team that can make a run. But oh well.
Oh, well, they did. They got hot. They got hot at the right time, so they definitely had the potential. But Texas was just too much for them. But anyway, moving on, we're gonna be talking some Eagles today. Lots and lots of action on Eagles Twitter and Eagles country over the past couple of weeks. We have free agency started last week. As we know, Eagles had a long list of free agents, most of which they lost. So let me just go over the list. We have 8 total players that are no longer on the roster after the first week of free agency. Let's start off with defense. So first we got Javon Hargrave, who went to the 49ers on a 4-year, $84 million deal. Then we got linebacker TJ Edwards, who went to the Bears on a 3-year, $19.5 million deal with $12 million guaranteed. Safety Marcus Epps is off to Vegas with the Raiders on a 2-year deal. Linebacker Kazir White is off to Arizona following defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon on a 2-year, $11 million year, $1 million contract. And then that's it for the defense. As of right now, we're still waiting on some more news. But onto the offense, Miles Sanders signed a 4-year, $25 million contract with the Panthers. Andre Dillard is off to Tennessee on a 3-year deal. Offensive lineman Isaac Seumalo is off to Pittsburgh. That just happened this morning. He's going to Pittsburgh on a 3-year, $24 million deal. And then backup quarterback Gardner Minshew is now off to Indianapolis. Another former Eagles quarterback, now an Indianapolis Colt. He's there on a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. And that about does it with the Eagles' departures so far this offseason. Now, on to the good news. We got some returning Eagles that we didn't really expect to return. So first of all, we got Jason Kelce. Fortunately, is not retiring. He'll be back for one more run with the Eagles. Then we got Fletcher Cox, a shocking re-signing, honestly, in my opinion, given his age and his lack of production. Wasn't expecting Howie to spend the money on a guy like that. I think it was time to say goodbye, but he's back in a 1-year, $10 million deal. Then we got Brandon Graham, one of the longest tenured Eagles, if not the longest tenured Eagle to this point, maybe behind Fletcher Cox. He's back on a 1-year, $6 million deal. And then here's where it really gets interesting. We got Darius Slay, who was released on Friday, I believe, Friday morning, and then all day. How we kind of did what with Darius Slay, he kind of did the same thing he did with Fletcher Cox last year, where he released Fletcher Cox, got all that cap money voided, and then he re-signed the player to a cheaper and smarter contract. So that's exactly what happened with Darius Slay. We all woke up to very unfortunate news that Darius Slay was being released, and then, of course, we went to bed with the exciting news that he would be returning on a 2-year, $42 million deal. So that's one corner, and then the other corner, James Bradbury also returning on a 3-year, $38 million deal. And then Boston Scott, the Giant Slayer, is returning for one more year on a $2 million deal. Now, some of the additions, we haven't made that many, but some of them are pretty notable. First, we got Rashaad Penny, from Seattle on a 1-year, $1.3 million deal. And then Cleveland's cornerback Greedy Williams on a 1-year deal. Not exactly sure how much it's worth. I looked everywhere. Couldn't find it for some reason. And then lastly, we replaced Gardner Minshew with Marcus Mariota, which at last has finally happened after 8 years. Chip Kelly, longtime Eagles fans, back in 2014, Chip Kelly made an aggressive pursuit for Marcus Mariota, trying to trade up to the second overall pick. Asher, do you know what the haul was by any chance?
Yeah, so I'll read it. This from a 2016 NBC column. It says the Eagles offer the Titans their 2015 first and second round picks, their 2016 first round pick, any quarterback on the roster, which at the time was either Mark Sanchez or Sam Bradford, so and any defensive player on the roster in exchange for the number 2 overall pick. Now, at the time, the Eagles' defense included DeMeco Ryans, Michael Kendricks, Brandon Graham, Malcolm Jenkins, Fletcher Cox, Connor Barwin, who was still pretty good. Byron Maxwell was a starter on that team. And the way that NBC also noted that it was anyone on the defense, not any one defensive player. So the Titans maybe could have asked for a few of those defensive starters, and the Eagles probably would have ponied that up. So that's pretty significant.
Which is really interesting because let's be honest, back then I was all in on Mariota. I loved Mariota. I thought him and Chip Kelly reuniting was going to be an amazing thing. Luckily, that didn't happen because I don't think we would have won the Super Bowl at all if we made that trade. If we made such a big call. I mean, quite honestly, I'd be pissed at Chip Kelly if he gave him that much just for the second overall pick and Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. Well, he would be the most hated man in Philadelphia, for sure.
If he isn't already, honestly. Ben Simmons, luckily Ben Simmons happened.
That's true. He would have taken the title.
Kelly is probably a close second to Ben Simmons with the way he treated the team, treated Howie Roseman back then. Very interesting. Finally happened. So he's a solid backup, honestly. I think that's a really good pickup in my opinion.
Yeah. I love all 3 signings.
Yeah, moving on to Rashaad Penny. What do you think of him? I think that's a very interesting signing. He's an injury-prone running back, but when he's healthy, he's good. He's got a lot of upside. He's just unfortunately really caught the injury bug during his very young career. I think how old is he? I think he's only 24, 25?
I think he's young, right? A bit older. This is going to be his 6th season, so I would guess somewhere around 27, 28.
Yeah.
He's played 28 games in the last 4 years, so averages 7 games a year. So not great, very injury prone, but he averaged over 6 yards per carry in the last 2 seasons. So just like you said, very talented when he's on the field. Difficult to get him on the field consistently.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see. I mean, I like him. I like the signing, but it really looks like the Eagles are going to be running a running back by committee. Now, the thing I'm really curious about is how much of an impact did Miles Sanders make? I mean, he had a career year this past season. I think he went over 1,000 yards, had 11 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, made the Pro Bowl.
Crazy, yeah, Pro Bowl, first Pro Bowl. He had an absolute career year. The unfortunate thing is that the Eagles just couldn't pay him. So I mean, he got his money as he deserves. But my concern now is, with this team being so run heavy the past couple years, how much are we going to miss Miles Sanders?
It's a good question. I think in my mind, 3 years, $24 million for Sanders, the Panthers paid. That's an overpay. I think no questions about it. Especially with we've seen the way that that the running back position has kind of been devalued in the way that it's funny that the Panthers paid Christian McCaffrey a huge contract, and then they were just unable to put a team around him. It's difficult to have your running back carry the team. Well,
especially in this day and age where running back, their primes only last a few years. Like Ezekiel Elliott just got released. I mean, back in 2016 is early. I mean, if you look at his numbers year by year, I mean, his numbers just go down in terms of yards per carry. I think his first year, his rookie year, he averaged near 6.
Yeah, that was his best year.
Sophomore year, his sophomore season, he went down to like what 5.1, then like 4.8, 3.2, all the way down. I think he averaged like 3 yards a carry this past season or something like that. So
Yeah, I mean, he got relegated to pretty much only being used in short yard situations for the Cowboys this
yeah,
year.
exactly. That's unfortunate, but like that just goes to show that hey, running back isn't everything, and I really like ultimately I think this was the smart move for the
Yep.
Eagles. Rashaad Penny might have not been the best option at running back. Maybe we could have drafted somebody. Maybe we could have just ran it with Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, running back by committee. But judging by the fact that we only spent one, we really didn't spend much at all on Rashaad.
Right.
I think it's a good pickup.
It's
Given
a
what he's
bargain for sure.
yeah.
I would like to see one more running back with a little more receiving prowess added to the team.
Mhm,
Penny's really not a threat receiving at all.
mhm.
So, like you said, we're going running back by committee this year. We're not going to be signing. We're not unless we draft Bijan Robinson, but we'll talk about that possibility later. I
Yeah.
don't see that happening at the 10th pick.
No, I don't see that. I mean, we'll go in depth of what we think it was what's going to happen in the draft. I mean, really, right now we're going to go through some more. But given like the positions right now, I don't really know where we could pick at 10. I don't know who we could pick at 10. I don't even know if we pick at 10 at this point, given that we have gotten most of our secondary, with the exception of CJ Gardner-Johnson, which we should probably get into. CJ Gardner-Johnson are currently waiting to see if we have any news on him. As we all know, it's like essential that the Eagles get him back. He was huge for the Eagles last season. He led the Eagles in interceptions. I don't know if he led the league, but I know he's up there for a while. I know he missed a few games, so I don't know if he led the league there, but I know he was like a interception machine last year.
Yeah, I believe he finished tied for the lead.
Yeah, but
He was
anyway,
up there for sure.
yeah, he's a key player to this defense. He's young. He's only like 23. So if we can get him to like a long-term deal, 3 or 4 years,
Mhm.
that's what the Eagles are trying to do. The news has been for the past few days that the Eagles have been aggressively pursuing him, trying to work out a deal, see what they can do. I've been looking all around, seeing what their cap space situation is after all these additions and all these players departing. I believe I saw a figure of 6 million, but that doesn't seem quite right, in my opinion. I feel like we should have more given all the departures, but we do have like a lot of dead cap right now. So
Yeah, and then there's always just more moves to be made with, especially when Howie Roseman is your GM, with
exactly.
restructuring deals and like Darius Slay cutting guys and re-signing them, or
Mhm.
maybe a guy like Quez Watkins who just gets cut. I think it is June 1st is the deadline where
Mhm.
the money becomes guaranteed for some
Yeah.
players.
Yes.
So
Yeah, but like another name also notable this offseason, CJ Gardner-Johnson. Then we also have Jalen Hurts, which we need to pay.
yep.
He's due for a huge paycheck, huge contract. So those are two key things that we're looking at for the rest of the offseason, especially in free agency. But I want to name some players I'm kind of looking out for. Some veterans, some cheap guys that would definitely be beneficial on this roster. Actually, I'm not sure if you had any names in mind, but I was looking at a guy named uh, Bobby Wagner from the Rams. He's a veteran. We all know him. Used to be one of the most dominant linebackers in the league. Now he's kind of at the backside of his career, kind of like riding it out, trying to ride with any team that'll take him to get a ring. He won a ring in Los Angeles. Didn't he win? Was he on that team? Was
I
he on that?
am not sure. I feel like he wasn't, but I mean, either way, he's still definitely at the point in his career where he wants to sign with a team that is a contender.
So like looking at this, I'm looking at Bobby Wagner. He's gonna be cheap. He fills a need of ours. We need a linebacker right now. We have Nakobe Dean, and then I don't know who the other guy's gonna be. Who's gonna be
Davion
there?
Taylor,
Davion Taylor. So
yeah,
linebacker is certainly a need. The linebacker draft class isn't that strong, and I don't imagine the Eagles really going linebacker in the draft at any point. Um, so I think Bobby Wagner is a big name. Another linebacker from Cleveland, Anthony Walker. He's an aggressive guy. He's pretty solid. He's going to be cheap as well. Probably get him for a year for like 5-10 mil maybe. Something in that range. I was looking at safety Taylor Rapp from the Rams, a
mhm,
versatile, very quick safety. And then we also have defensive lineman Yannick Ngakoue. from Indianapolis. So those are the 4 names I'm really looking at in terms of like maybe adding another piece to this defense. Just trying to strengthen it a little bit. I think this offseason is really going to be defense focused, given that most of our losses have been on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
But,
no,
yeah.
I agree. I'm actually in agreement with you with I would like to see us bring in Bobby Wagner. I'm not sure if we re-sign CJ and Hurts, which I think is essential
Mhm.
if we're gonna have the money for a guy like Bobby Wagner. He's still one of the top 10 linebackers in the league.
Mhm.
So I'd imagine he's probably commanding around 10 million at least per year.
Mhm.
I'm looking at a guy like Drew Tranquil, who's a pretty well-rounded player from the Chargers. He can
Mhm.
cover, he can blitz a little bit, good tackler. I don't think you look at the way the Eagles have handled the linebacker position for the entire Howie Roseman era. It's probably their least valued position on defense. I don't think that even if we have the money, that Howie shells it out for a Bobby Wagner.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to think a little more realistically there. Let me know if you agree with me on this though. If the Eagles re-sign Jalen Hurts and CJ, I will not be upset if no one else gets signed this offseason and we just build through the draft.
Listen, honestly, I completely agree with you. I think, I mean, let's look at the reality situation here. We have 2 first-round picks,
Yep.
both that are pretty strong. We get the 10th pick and we get the 30th pick, both in which we can probably swap uh, for probably a young linebacker or maybe something like. So there's trades that can be done.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to what I was saying. I definitely agree with that. I think we should prioritize CJ Gardner-Johnson and Jalen Hurts because both players are key players. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is our franchise quarterback. We need to prioritize that. But I definitely agree with you. I would not be mad if we brought in those 2 guys, signed them to long-term contracts, and then with it, built through the draft, traded 4 players through the draft. I mean, we know Howie Roseman. He loves to do draft day trades. So I definitely could imagine someone like that. I wouldn't be mad at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the way I'm looking at it right now, a lot of this is probably by far the most well-rounded group and one of the deepest groups in the NFL. That's why we made the Super Bowl. I mean, just talent. There was
mhm,
talent across the board. I
mhm,
mean, I can't remember another Eagles team that was this good at every position and deep at all the important positions.
mhm,
So as upset as I am about losing players like Javon Hargrave and Marcus Epps, I mean, there's guys like we have Jordan Davis to step in there.
mhm,
We have Reed Blankenship at safety. I think he's
mhm,
still a solid starting option.
mhm.
So
Absolutely. I think I think a lot of Eagles fans have been really over dramatizing this
yeah,
offseason and how everybody's like, oh my God, we have like 20 free agents. We're going to lose all our defense, all that. Well, luckily, we have Howie Roseman as our GM, which is like literally one of the best in the league. So, having him on our side, I don't think there's really anything to worry about, and because he's master manipulating the cap, keeping as much talent on his team as possible. I mean, there's a reason why this team is as deep as it is, and it's because of Howie Roseman the last few years drafting out of his mind. Um, Absolutely, like every single offseason is just amazing, with the exception of 2020. That one was a blunder, but we have High Roseman, so I think we're gonna be okay, honestly, no matter what.
yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that if you're an Eagles fan, don't be surprised if we trade out of that 10th pick,
Mhm.
maybe out of the first round entirely.
Yeah.
Don't sign any more big name free agents. Like we don't have to do that. This team is
Mhm.
still really, really good.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just happy as long as Gardner Johnson and Hurts get re-signed, this team is still easily in contention in the NFL.
Yeah, I believe so, and even next year, I mean, we'll preview the Eagles schedule, probably in a couple of months, see what happens. The schedule will be coming out, in May, I believe. So when the schedules first come out, we'll
Yeah,
go through, but I think right now, as the roster stands, I mean, assuming we get CJ Gardner-Johnson back, this team is probably hovering around 11 or 12 wins,
yeah,
in my opinion,
for
even
sure.
with a tougher schedule. I mean, the schedule next year just looks atrocious.
It's
Um
brutal.
just depends on what order in which we face these teams. But I still think this team wins the NFC East. Um, at 11 or 12 wins. And yeah, so that about does it so far for free agency. Uh, Asher, would you like to talk some draft for a little bit, just briefly, very briefly?
Yeah, we could do a little preview, just things that
So
we'd like to see.
so let's talk some draft. So the Eagles have the 10th and the 30th pick in the first round. In terms of who you want to target, if the Eagles do pick at 10, who do you think the Eagles should take?
I think that with the way that this cornerback class is stacked, I would like to see a corner. Darius Slay is 32. Corners don't generally last that long into their 30s. James Bradbury is coming up on 30. I like Greedy Williams. I'm not sure if he's a starting level player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Avonte Maddox, Josh Jobe on the bench. I don't know if there's any starting caliber players on the bench. It's good depth,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd like to see. I think there's 4 guys that are easy first round picks, and there's Joey Porter from Penn State. There's Witherspoon from Illinois, Gonzalez from Oregon, and one more that I'm blanking on. But I think there's guys that easily come in and start in the NFL, maybe even like to the success that we saw the 2 corners last year from Seattle and New York.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe make a Pro Bowl, that kind of level. I think there's real talent in the cornerback pool this year.
Yeah, I think I agree, but like, do you think the Eagles are in a position? I mean, you've kind of been emphasizing that this team is like stacked, and I agree with you. But do you think the Eagles should draft for depth at 10?
I think that the Eagles are like when you are coming off a Super Bowl appearance and you have a top 10 pick, like you're feeling pretty good. I
Mm-hmm.
think that maybe they could take a reach, what would be considered a reach on Bijan Robinson if they want to. Like there's a lot of things that Howie Roseman can do there. He could trade out, he could trade up, he could trade down.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know, but assuming we stay at 10, I'm looking at a guy named Jalen Carter. A lot of mock drafts have him going at like 8 or 9, maybe 7. We're at 10, so I mean, if he drops, I think it's no doubt the Eagles go with Carter. Carter's the best defensive lineman in the draft, according to many experts. He's a very big guy. He's what his numbers? He's 6'3", 300 pounds, so big, strong guy. And the Eagles are never afraid to go D-line in the first round,
Yeah,
or in
that's
the
true.
draft in general. They always love drafting defensive linemen. So I would not be surprised. Another guy I'm looking at is another defensive lineman, which is what a lot of people have the Eagles taken, is Miles Murphy out of Clemson. He's 6'5", 275. Pretty solid, pretty solid. He's got a high ceiling. So those are the 2 guys I'm really looking at, but like I'm just going based off what I think Howie would do. I think Howie would go D-line at 10 and then probably look to trade our 30th pick. I don't know if I've ever I mean, I remember when we won the Super Bowl back in 2017, we traded the 32nd for a second round pick with the Ravens, I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't really picture us drafting at 30. I think we trade down and perhaps use that 30 and one of our other picks to trade up to like mid 20s, maybe upper 20s if we're really liking what we're seeing there.
Mhm.
I mean, like you said, it's a cornerback loaded draft. So do you really think, and like I'm going to ask you this, I don't know what you would think of this, but what if we took the 10 and like and traded down?
For one of
Possibly.
that's actually my ideal move would be trading to maybe the 13, 14, 15 range and taking
Mhm.
whichever of those 4 corners is still on the board.
Yeah, I mean that's ideal. I mean, I'm thinking like what could you get with that 10th pick? I mean, what I was thinking just a couple of weeks back before the Darius Slay stuff happened, I was thinking pair the 10th and Darius Slay for a veteran corner or something like that. That's what I was thinking. But obviously, Darius Slay's here to stay. So, do you think Howie could possibly put together a package with the 10th or the 30th and possibly bring on a guy?
Yeah, no, that's definitely an option. Like you said, would the Eagles draft for depth at 10? Maybe not, but you gotta think that, like we've been emphasizing how good this team still is.
Mhm.
Almost any position outside of linebacker and running back, whoever you draft is gonna be a depth piece. They're not gonna be starting. We saw that Jordan Davis got drafted 13th last year. He didn't
Mhm.
start for us. Now
Mhm.
he sheds a few pounds. He probably slots into one of the starting 2 defensive tackles with
Mhm.
Cox. So we draft Jalen Carter. He might not even be starting this year, as good of a player as he is.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility where Howie just trades for maybe like a veteran linebacker
Yeah, it's
or
very
a first-round
possible.
pick next year.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. But yeah, so we will revisit all this draft. In a few weeks, we will be coming out with a full-fledged mock draft for the first round. Very excited for that. But as of right now, we got some March Madness to get to. We got I got homework to do. So that's gonna conclude us here at 2-5 Scoop. Thank you for tuning in. Um, and yeah, so we will be back again next week. We're going to talk some Sixers, talk some possible Joel Embiid MVP. He's back in the running. He's now the leader. So lots to look forward to. Sixers are currently on a 8-game win streak as they beat the Pacers last night. So we'll revisit them later this week. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And thank you for listening and watching. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. And yeah, thank you.
See you guys.
Yeah, go Birds.
Go Birds.